comics. You are all weirdos.
Weird science
is the revolution.
Weird science
is the revolution.
Weird science
is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Comics channel here on YouTube, where I'm going to be going through the issue number 2 of Dan Slott's new Spider-Man book. It is End of Spider-Verse, and I think a lot of people I've heard from, they want the Spider-Verse, at least in the comics, to end. We'll see if that happens by the end of this story, but I like this issue. I think it's a pretty good issue. The art's incredible. And while some people thought that it was full of exposition and explanation, I actually didn't mind it. But it is Spider-Man number 2, written by Dan Slott, pencils by Mark Bagley, inks by John Dell, colors by Edgar Delgado, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. The issue itself is called End of the Spider-Verse Part 2, The Last Spider-Man Standing. And yeah, desperate times here. Already they've allowed Morlun to be part of this team. Crazy stuff, right? Well, that'll be explained a little in this issue. And the idea of this being full of exposition, yes, it is. But I don't mind it because some of the stuff is really interesting. You have some twists and turns going on. So I'm down for it. But here we go into an issue that looks downright incredible throughout. Mark Bagley, mwah! He should be commended over and over and over. We actually start with what really sounds like a Tom Holland Spider-Man. And it is, because we start off on Earth TRN 971. And while that should be the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's actually the Marvel Theme Park Universe. And there's a neat little reason why. If you end up having the Cinematic Universe, then the comics have to keep up with what's going on in the shows and the movies and whatnot. And you're going to have things like the Thanos snap at this moment. Well, you're not going to be able to use a lot of characters. And in this beginning, you have Tony Stark talking to Spider-Man. And so this whole theme park universe, Earth, is just the Marvel Cinematic Universe without the snap or the blip, so you end up being able to use classic characters from the MCU. I think it's a neat little thing, and you end up having Mr. Stark getting a hold of Peter Parker and saying, hey, Peter, what's going on? There's problems over at the old Web HQ. The Tom Holland Spider-Man, man, thanks for letting me be in Web. This is great, but I am a spider character, so I guess you had to let me in. And that's where you end up having Tony say, well, you are the only spider character in this universe, right? And Spider-Man says, yeah, I think. The weird play, though, is somebody or something or somebodies are wrecking house over at the Web HQ, and no alarms are getting alerted. In fact, when Spider-Man gets there, his spidey sense isn't even tingling. It's because there are spider characters there. Now, if you're reading this, you'll realize right away, even before you get that page turn, that they will be spider wasps of Shathra. It's just who. And who is Spider-Ham, Spider-Man 2099, and Spider-Man India, and a really overpowered group to take down Tom Holland. I love Tom Holland, but he's not surviving this, or at least he's not going to get changed. And I'm sure they don't show it, but I'm sure he is now a spider wasp. So from there, we go back to the 616 proper, where we ended last issue in a confrontation of Peter Parker, Miles Morales, Silk, and Morlun going head-to-head with the Spider Wasps, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Punk, Mayday Parker, Spider-Girl / Spider-Woman, and Ghost Spider, Gwendolyn Stacy. And so you have them confronting, and you're going to have our good guy and gal team not really wanting to hurt these characters. Morlun, he doesn't care. This guy's going to go over the top, and he wants to kill everyone there. He's actually stopped at one point by Silk from killing what is, I believe, Mayday. So that's a good deal where Silk stops this going on. But you have that, well, we want to find a cure. These are friends. Morlun says, this is war. There's no friends in war. This is a desperate situation, and they don't realize how desperate it is. Now, Peter is going up against Spider-Man Noir, who has the Spider Totem dagger, and Peter wants to get this dagger. I mean, this is something bad. We saw Jessica Drew being unloomed by it last issue, and even in this issue, you have a point where the characters are starting to forget who Jessica Drew is. Even in this, when you have Peter say to Spider-Man Noir, "Hey, you killed Jessica Drew with that. Who's Jessica Drew?" Like, she is being forgotten. And that's what that dagger ends up doing. He's trying to get it, but they're not going to have the time at this moment. Things are so desperate. You end up having Aranya, Spider Girl, and Spider UK come through a portal and grab our heroes and take them away. They say, and you get Aranya using the magic. You have a funny little quip where you have Peter say to Aranya, "Hey, does Doctor Strange know that you stole his bit?" And Aranya comes back with, "Wait a minute, no, he stole our bit. Didn't you ever think about how he uses those Spider-Man looking techniques with his fingers and stuff?" And you have Peter, mind blown. And they go through this portal. We don't know just yet where they're going, but we find out from the reaction of Shathra that they are somewhere that can't be tracked. And Aranya and Spider UK end up saying that. Poor Nestling, who's a spider wasp, but they're trying desperately to find them, while Shathra is pretty much leering over her shoulder, screaming and yelling at her. But she says they have gone off the web. They are actually gone dark. Shathra is pissed. We find out where they went, and it's pretty cool. Earth 616 beta universe. This is a old-timey comic book looking with the Ben-Day dots, not the Uncle Ben-Day dots. That's a dad joke right there. But you end up, it looks like an old comic book, and it's explained that this was the test run of the 616. So some of the places aren't quite done yet. They may not be named, and they are outside of one of them, the Our Lady of Saints Church, and that is a big deal. While in this beta universe, it hasn't been named yet. Once it gets named, it becomes real big in the whole spider history. This is the church where Eddie Brock bonded with the Venom symbiote in Spider-Man number 300, but it's also where the citizens that were mutated in the Spider Island story went to get cured. Morlun laughs because he's like, "Yeah, this place, I really ate a lot of people here and wrecked it at points. Oh my God, it's so great." And yeah, it's always too soon for that, Morlun. Shut your mouth. Everybody's upset that Morlun's on this team, but before they end up going into the church, you have this little aside with Peter and Morlun where Peter's like, Morlun, you shut your mouth. And Morlun's like, "You're really a mystery there, old Peter Parker, because I, pretty much consumed your life force, but here you are, huh? That's odd." But they end up going into the church, and this is where you get introduced, or at least if you haven't read the Spider-Verse Prelude stuff, you'll be introduced to these characters. Our team is introduced to them as well, because when you go in, you get the Hunter Spider, the Craven deal, Spintress, the Disney Spider Princess, Web Weaver, the fashion designer, Sun Spider, who is the handicapped Spider-Man or Spider-Gal, and Night Spider, the Felicia Hardy deal, the Black Cat Spider-Man. So you end up this introduction. It's nice. Craven just likes to hunt, so he doesn't care who's on the team. He's fired up. We have both the chosen one, Peter Parker, and Morlun. Oh my God, what a hunting party this will be. And he's just like, he seems to be the guy who's like really confident that no matter what, he's going to be able to solve it all by just hunting down everyone. But you end up having a neat little deal where Spintress, the Disney Princess Spider-Man, she starts singing introductions about everybody. Peter eventually stops her, which is kind of funny. Peter goes over to Felicia Hardy, Night Spider, and wants to get, the vibe. "Okay, are you good, bad, what? Hey, nice to meet you. I just want to know, like, in your world, it is with great power comes," and she interrupts him, "no accountability," and ends up stealing his belt. It's a neat little, cute little moment that made me actually laugh. So I'll give Dan Slott credit here. Now, when he had Spintress singing, not as good as her introduction and her songs and things in those Spider-Verse deal, but he does an okay job with that. One little misplay, as Madam Web comes down to talk to them, You end up having Silk is really disturbed that Peter has been going around with a torn up costume and no mask. I actually was going to say that at the beginning of this. He's just going through downtown Manhattan without a mask. Very odd. But she ends up using her silky powers to fix his costume. And I thought, why are you doing that? Web Weaver is there. He's a fashion designer. This is his thing. Why didn't you do that? Now, there is a page turn where he then says, "Hey, that's my thing. Why didn't you let me do that?" And Peter says, "Oh, we'll do that later." But I thought that that would have been a cool play, at least for this book and this kind of end of Spider. Have Peter in a different costume that you had made by Web Weaver. I thought that would have been a neat deal, but Dan Slott doesn't want to go that route. But Madam Web, when she comes down, she's going to explain kind of what's going on and how desperate the situation is. This is all they have left. This group is it. Peter at one point thinks the plan should be, hey, let's go gather up some more Spider-Men and gals and whatever. There are no more left. You end up having them say, you don't get it. This is it. You're the chosen one. This is our team. And we're going against the rest of the Spider-Verse. And it really looks bad. But she also talks and gives a little explanation to the team and to us about the spider totem dagger that ended up killing Jessica Drew. The reason why Shathra is using this is because the spiders of Earth 616 can't be changed into wasps. It's kind of explained in a non-explanation way. We don't know why, but it's just something that happens. The 616 Spider-Man, Spider-Gals, all of them, they can't be turned into wasps. So the spider totem dagger is just being used to just completely eliminate them from the web, like Jessica Drew. So that's a big play here. But it also shows you with this team, a lot of them are still vulnerable because they aren't from the 616. Well, the other thing in the elephant in the room is what the heck's going on with Morlun? Why is Morlun on the team? And they ask him, how'd you get here? And he says, in a comic booky way, well, there's no time for that, but if you insist, you know he wants to tell this story. He's a storyteller at heart. He talks about the idea of heading off to Loom World. I think this might be Spider Boy's little jumping gauntlet, Spider-Verse jumping deal. He ends up finding one of those portal gauntlets. He says finding. It's on the severed arm of, like I said, I think it might be Spider-Boy, but he gets that and goes to Loom World. He's going to Loom World because he wants to find the rest of his inheritor team, his family. And the funny play here, though, is they were actually, during the Spider-Geddon event, they were turned into babies. And they're there in a nursery. I think that what he actually means is he has to go and feed, burp, and change their diapers. And you know that this nursery has to stink. I have 5 kids. Diapers are the worst. They stink, and these things have probably been sitting around for a while. The babies are probably crying. Well, there's no crying. There was at one point, I'm sure, but when he busts into this whole nursery, we find out, oh, it's not a problem because Spider-Man, the Aunt May What If Spider-Man, she's been taking care of them. Oh, no, she took care of them. She ate them. They're dead. They're done. And so he gets pissed off. He attacks Spider-Man and then starts heading to the throne room of Loom World to face and, in his mind, hopefully, take down Shathra. So he goes against Shathra at this point. He kind of is losing, and she's talking a lot of crap and ends up revealing that Morlun is more spider than anything. And it really makes some sense. Solus, the father of the inheritors, he had to eat a bunch of spiders so that the web would recognize him as a spider. Well, after all these years, after all the inheritors continuously end up consuming spiders, all that going down the line, they've pretty much become more spiders than anything else. So he's part of the spider family, and that's why he's on the team, because as he's about to get just decimated, he realizes he goes to retreat. He hits his gauntlet. He portals out, but Madam Web was able to intercept that and bring, Morlun into the fold here. And so that's where we end up with Morlun on the team. So that's pretty cool. Now, by the end, you end up where you're thinking, okay, we haven't really gotten much, but I actually like all the explanations and some of the twists. But the big twist here is, if you remember Miles, he got bit in the first issue. But that shouldn't be a problem, right? Because 616 spiders, they can't turn. Oh no, Miles is from the Ultimate Universe. He's from the 1610. There's trouble. He starts turning into a wasp. And that is something that Shathra is now able to see through his eyes and knows exactly where they are. And in a cool looking final panel, she's got everybody. I mean, from the video game Spider-Man to Arachnite to the Hulk Spider-Man from Mark Waid's What If story of 2005, there are just a who's who of Spider-Man now as Spider-Wasp. Pretty cool page. I wish it was a full spread, but you have it as a cliffhanger here. Now, all in all, with that, if the video game Spider-Man doesn't get turned back from being a Spider-Wasp, video game Spider-Man. Miles is now a Spider-Wasp, Spider-Ham even, all the Spider 2099. They're going to have to find a way to cure them. They're not going to let this just lie like that, obviously, but you could still play along and have fun with this issue, and I did have fun with it. I thought it was really cool. The art's incredible. I mean, the art is impeccable even. I like it that much. And I like the explanation. I like seeing some of these characters that we ended up getting in the Spider-Verse prelude thing going on into this. So overall, I'm going to go a solid 8.5. And I know that some people will probably say, oh, that's way too high. Oh, my God, what are you thinking? I just had fun with this, and it feels big. It feels like an event. So I am down with it. And yeah, I'd like to know what everybody else thinks of it. But that is that for Spider-Man number 2. But thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate all the comments and the likes. Please subscribe to the channel, all that stuff that people with a lot more knowledge and experience than I do say at the end of these videos. But just remember, thank you. Check out all our podcasts, everything in the show notes, a lot of things to click and clack onto. But I will talk to you all later.
Go read comics.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science.
It's the revolution.
Weird science.
It's the revolution.
Weird science.
It's the revolution.